the mailings in June, our staff will start reviewing from the public right-of-way every property in the town, to make sure that, again, the information that we have on file is as accurate as we can have it, before we start doing valuation. So with that, I just wanted to say hi to everybody and answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, does any of the board have questions? John, I see you're ready. Yeah, I thought you were gonna be ready to go. You're just ready to say no? Nick, anything?
No, thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Jen, I know you just sat through one of these meetings, but.
Yeah, just to clarify, the meeting in March, the community meeting is March 26th
We're trying to get a venue for that.
for that day.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fresh out of this afternoon's meeting.
So that date is subject to move pending finding of the location.
Yes.
I think the date is pretty well set because we have this room reserved as a hold in case our primary locations that we're looking at are not available.
Now, did you
So
say-
it will be the 26th from 6 to 8 p.m.
Did you say you're gonna send out mailers so that the residents know when the meeting is?
So in the first week of June, that's when the data mailer will be sent out to property owners. That will have the dates of our meetings on the 13th and 16th.
Okay.
So that's after, or the town board workshop is June 4th. So we'll, just to clarify what I heard, the mailers would go out before June 4th?
The
Or-
target is for them to go out the beginning of that week, that Monday.
Okay, then they would have notice for the June 13th and 16th meetings in regards to those mailers and the information that's going to be collected or that they need to provide for their properties.
Correct.
And is just one mailer going out, or are we going to make multiple attempts to contact residents?
Just the one.
And if we don't get them back, what's the process if they don't reply to them?
In other projects that we've worked on, the response rate from property owners is extremely low. People, if they think the information's right, or if they think it's wrong in their advantage, they're not gonna let us know. A lot of time, we do have people that submit back, and they'll be able to submit back on a number of different ways, by correcting the mailer and mailing it back, or dropping it off at the assessment office. The assessor's office in the town also utilizes a company called Beacon, or an application called Beacon, that displays all the records that we have on file for each property. And through that, you could submit a request for changes, as well as Bridget's put together some fillable PDFs that will be a QR code to link to that. That's primarily for commercial properties.
Okay. And you know, like, what's the typical response rate? Is it 5, 10, 20% that you hear back from people?
5.
Okay,
It's low.
yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised. It's a mailer,
That's well.
yeah.
But, it's an attempt to collect get the information right, as well as get the information out to the property owners that, with the projects going on, what we're doing, when we're gonna have a meeting for them to be able to attend and hear about the project and ask questions.
Okay, thanks.
And that site is open now. The Beacon site is available and it's open to the community now off the assessment webpage. And I've been meaning to go there and test the process and update some things for my property because I removed a bedroom and turned it into a study. I don't know if that's a different thing or not, but be that as it may, it is available for people to use, and it's on the website. We've had a number of meetings about it. We've had some community information meetings. It's hard to get the word out, but there's been a number of different communications to try and make sure folks are aware of that. But it is something, if somebody asks you, it's available now and they can get in front of it
Oh, good.
if they so desire.
Yeah, and I will say, if anybody does have questions, head to town hall. Our assessment staff, the clerks, the assistant assessor, and Donna, they are the best of the best. I have had other municipalities, the other supervisors, wanting to take them. So any questions, please send their way. They're one of a kind, and they're not going to steer you wrong. But if we have nothing else, you're free to go.
Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you
Thanks.
soon.
Thanks for coming.
Up next is the one and only Josh Artuzo to discuss our upcoming TAP grant application for the West Webster Hamlet Revitalization Program, which is something that's pretty exciting. So, have at it, Josh.
Okay, so just a brief overview of what will be covered in tonight's presentation. I'm going to briefly review the history of revitalization efforts to date and some priority plan recommendations that came out of the 2023 West Webster Hamlet Revitalization Plan. Then I'm going to give some highlights on what the TAP grant application is all about and what the program is intended to achieve. And then I will present some proposed scope of work and cost estimates for the preliminary sidewalk plan that has been put together. And lastly, have some Q&A and discussion with the board. So this may be familiar. I've been before the board many times over the past several years. I'm just going to hit the highlights of what's relevant for tonight's presentation. So back in June of 2021, Webster Economic Development Alliance secured a $90,000 grant through the Genesee Transportation Council to go through a land use and transportation planning effort, also known as a revitalization plan. That effort was completed in June of 2023. The plan was finalized. It had many recommendations that I'll briefly touch upon. And then in January of 2024, the town did pursue this same grant opportunity to install sidewalks in that neighborhood. Unfortunately, our first attempt at that grant application was unsuccessful. But we did participate in a debrief with the folks from the agency and were provided with some valuable insights and recommendations on how to improve upon our application. So as most of you know, in August of 25, the town demolished the long vacant former Webster Furniture Stripper building at the corner of Ridge and Gravel. We were awarded a grant through the EPA to conduct some environmental testing that was recently completed, and we are just awaiting the final report on those efforts. And then just a few months ago, back in November of this year, I presented before the board at that time, asking for some funds to prepare a base survey map and a preliminary design plan to support the next round of the TAP grant funding. So just to back up a little bit, again, the priority revitalization recommendations really focused on the intersection of Old Ridge and Gravel roads. That was identified as the highest priority area based on community feedback. As you can see to the left hand of the screen on the top is what we call a heat map. So basically there was an online portal where people could submit comments or issues, and based on the coloring of the heat map, as you can see, the majority of comments centered around the Ridge and Gravel intersection. The image directly below that is what we call a word cloud. So they actually extract the most commonly used words, and the size of the words is commensurate with how many times it was included in public feedback comments. So a lot about sidewalks, pedestrian safety, streetscape improvements, trying to create a sense of place. So, as I mentioned, those were really some of the high priority recommendations that came out of that community-based planning effort. And obviously, wanting the town to do something about the blighting impacts of 600 Ridge Road, as well as the former Jade Palace at 602 Ridge Road. So we are slowly making some progress in this area. The other images show a rendering of what the area could look like with the addition of some streetscape enhancements, some branding and signage, again, to kind of establish a stronger sense of place in that part of town. So a little bit about the TAP grant. It stands for the Transportation Alternatives Program, and the project, the funding is really to provide financial assistance for projects that improve and enhance pedestrian and bicycle safety, provide safe routes to schools for children and parents, and to facilitate and promote the use of non-motorized modes of travel. Some of the grant details include eligible activities, planning, design, and construction of on and off-road facilities for pedestrians and bicyclists. The application cycle is available about every 2 to 3 years. This is the funding mechanism that the town successfully obtained to construct the sidewalks along Ridge Road. And that, I believe, was awarded in 2018 with construction taking place in 2020. So the crux of the grant is you can request up to 80% of the total project cost, and there is a local match requirement by the municipality of 20%. As I mentioned earlier, our initial application in '23 was unsuccessful, so we did participate in the debrief, and really the primary feedback that we received at that time was that our project was highly competitive and perfectly aligned with the program goals. The recommendation at that time was that the town pursue survey and preliminary design to accompany any future application, which would enhance our competitiveness and demonstrate our commitment to the project. So as I mentioned back in November, we did receive 3 proposals, ultimately selected Costitch Engineering and Design to conduct the base survey mapping. We did meet with staff from Costitch, Pat Stevens, our highway superintendent, Keith Mortimer, our town engineer, and myself did a walk, it was snowing that day, so we actually drove the corridor, made some infield observations, kind of talked about the different options that were available, because it is varying segments have more room than others. So we wanted to kind of evaluate what the potential options were and kind of determine what level of reconstruction would need to take place. You know, do we want to keep the existing concrete gutters? Do we want to rip everything out and go with granite curbing? Obviously, there's a lot of cost implications to the level that we go to. So we had several internal meetings back and forth to kind of describe and determine what the best approach was for each segment. I think by and large, there's 3 categories of this corridor. So it does, it isn't a linear, complete sidewalk that's, has the same level of tree lawn. It does kind of adjust for existing conditions and minimizes the impact to existing obstructions like utility poles, mailboxes, driveway aprons, etc. So as you could see, we just this week got the preliminary sidewalk alignment plan and the preliminary cost estimate. And ultimately, the cost came in actually less than was expected. Back in 2023, the scope was a little bit different. It was a little larger in scope because it also included sidewalks along gravel road. This particular effort just focuses on Old Ridge Road between Bay Road and Empire. So essentially, the total construction cost is estimated at $1.7 million with a 25% contingency, totaling just over $2,235,000. So roughly calculating what the local match would be, it's approximately $447,000. As I mentioned, the 2023 effort cost estimate came in at just over $5 million. So the town's share for that attempt was more in the almost double what the current request is. So sidewalks in West Webster Hamlet, why now? So the addition of sidewalks in the hamlet aligns with the community-driven revitalization plan recommendations, as well as the TAP grant program goals. This grant represents an extraordinary opportunity to submit what we feel is a significantly more competitive application, showing that we followed through on the suggestions that were provided to us during that debrief. And it could lead to up to 80% of project costs being covered, which is pretty substantial. We'd like to keep moving in the direction and capitalize on the sustained momentum from the town's acquisition of the former furniture stripper building and the ongoing efforts to quantify what environmental remediation at that location is needed, if any. There's certainly an increased interest in this area from the investment community. It builds upon our previous revitalization commitments and other investments that the town has made to date. And public investment in sidewalks and streetscape enhancements are proven to spur additional private investment in the areas that are directly adjacent to it. So I spoke with Paul Adams, our Director of Finance, as this is not something that was budgeted in our current town budget, but the local match requirement can be funded from the general townwide A fund. It can also be planned for within the town's annual budgeting process for capital projects, or it could be through a bond. So this is just a visualization, a rough, crude visualization of some of what it could look like with some enhancements and sidewalks at the intersection. There is also included in this project the planting of street trees in the tree lawn areas where there aren't currently any, and then potentially adding some gateway features that were recommended in the plan, as well as the potential for even some additional pedestrian scaled lighting. Interestingly enough, the town also received a grant to replace our streetlights and convert them from traditional streetlights to more energy efficient LEDs. This actually happens to be one of our town lighting districts, so the town will be moving forward with new streetlights in this location as well. That was an item that was included in the cost estimate that was provided to the board. However, because we already have another funding source for that, that could remove potentially about $100,000 from the current cost estimate. We are going to be looking to see if we could potentially repurpose those funds towards some additional pedestrian scaled lighting. So what are the next steps? We were on a pretty tight time frame when we started this effort in late November. The upcoming application deadline to submit is on March 12th. So what we would need at this point is a resolution from the town board authorizing us to submit the grant application and pledging support of the local match requirement if we are ultimately awarded the grant. So we do have a resolution planned for the next town board meeting on March 5th for that. If the board chooses to authorize us to proceed, we would then work with our grant consultants at Gene O'Connell and Associates to finalize our application and align the narrative with the preliminary plan and incorporate the survey and design work into the application. And then we would look to submit it by the deadline on March 12th. So with that, just leave you with a couple images. On the left, you have present day, and on the right, you have what the future vision that we're going for would look like. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that the board may have. And we also have Mike Ritchie from Costitch Engineering here if there's any technical questions or detailed questions on the cost estimate.
Thank you, Josh. As usual, we'll go down the line, but we'll start with Councilman Wagner.
You know, Josh, that's a narrow street up there already. Is some of the sidewalks going to be on like homeowner property, or is it all going to be the current road footage that's there?
By and large, everything is within the town right away. I think there might be one or two locations where we may need an easement for a portion of the sidewalk, but by and large, everything's within the town's public right of way.
Okay, that's
Yeah, 'cause
good.
we ran into that problem, I believe, in the sidewalks up here with the easements, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
We did.
We had to compensate property
Right.
owners, and, yeah, we tried to minimize that as much as possible. As I mentioned, there were, a couple different iterations and a lot of discussions between town staff and Costitch to try and minimize those potential impacts to private property.
Okay. And then, refresh my memory, for the sidewalks, when it snows, that's the homeowner's responsibility out there, or?
Well,
Right.
each municipality handles it differently.
Yeah.
We currently don't have an ordinance on the books
Okay.
like that. I think the intent, and it's a good point, we would certainly have to internally coordinate with Parks and Rec and our highway department to come up with a better maintenance plan for the sidewalks, especially wintertime maintenance.
Okay.
Is that something that would be addressed in the sidewalk district itself, or that doesn't apply in this instance?
A sidewalk district is a potential option, and that's basically creating a special district.
Yeah.
The properties that benefit from, along this corridor would essentially have a special district charge added to their tax bill to kind of offset the expense. That's one option.
So, I'm sorry to go out of turn here.
It's all right.
So as far as the grant application goes, we would be requesting how much money?
So the grant allows you to request up to 5 million.
Okay,
So we would be requesting the full 80%.
great. The other concern, it's not really a concern, but I know you had brought the point up about remediation. We may have to do additional remediation that I don't think it's going to really impact this area.
Correct. If there would need to be remediation, it would be most likely on the northern end of
Right.
the 600 Ridge Road parcels, and it shouldn't impact any planned sidewalk where
Right.
the
I just wanted to clarify
street
that.
frontage.
And is part of the goal of this kind of redevelopment to hopefully provide a better footprint, so when something happens with the Jade Palace, it's a better looking part of the community.
Exactly. A lot of the recommendations that came out of the plan were encouraging more mixed-use development, more walkable area. So yes, and just even, you know, we've actually been contacted by several prospective buyers of that building. There's a lot of renewed interest in that building, just because of the work that's been done across the street and the demolition of the former furniture stripper building and, you know, just the talk around town that we're pursuing things in this neighborhood.
And then in the longer term plan, is there a goal to connect this sidewalk strip to other sidewalks that are adjacent to it to expand access?
That would be the ideal goal. Unfortunately, there aren't really many sidewalks in that part of town.
Yeah.
You know, Monroe County did have a sidewalk grant program that you could pursue for county roads, and if that becomes available again, that could be something we could look to build upon along gravel, because gravel is a county road.
Okay.
And ideally, over time, I think the goal would be, yes, to connect it to Ridge Road and extend sidewalks along Ridge where there currently aren't any.
Okay. Thanks.
John?
First, just thank you for the presentation and the update and giving a lot of the background and where you are today. I appreciate that. I'm excited about the project because it's very much aligned with the comprehensive plan and where we want to go and the feedback. And, you know, I commend the team for working on this and taking the feedback from the, you know, the grant decision makers. It's a unique area in Webster, and one that I've noticed even before this investment is coming in, that a lot of property owners are taking care to improve each of their own properties in the area. And it is a main, you know, through area to get from all of those neighborhoods off of Gravel Road over to Empire Boulevard. And this has been a long-standing, challenging area. That building was empty for probably 20 years, more than 20 years. A very long time, and it was a project that nobody really wanted to touch. And, you know, the previous board took the initiative to see what was available and ultimately get that building, the eyesore building that everybody wanted removed. And that was the domino that needed to fall to bring interest to this area. But having a Four Corners like that in a major focal point in that little hamlet area, there's a ton of opportunity. And it'll be great if we do get this grant and, you know, be able to put the investment in, get the sidewalks in, and I'm sure the rest of the development in the area is going to follow as a result.
I would agree.
John?
I agree with everything. I think the first major step that was taken was tackling that, the old furniture building that basically the county had. And it took a long time and a lot of work, and our foot never came off the gas, and we finally accomplished what really needed to be accomplished. And when, to your point, that other property owners in that venue will have started improving their, we went through the same thing in the village back in 2014. We addressed one property that had 3-4 storefronts in it, went through that process, and the owner did a phenomenal job revitalizing those buildings, the facades, and next thing you know, all the other store owners are improving there. So there's truth to what you're saying.
Nick?
Nothing really to add, Josh. I really appreciate it. I think it's a great opportunity to listen to residents and provide them with what they want. So I love the project. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to state, I mean, I love the West Webster Hamlet. I got prescribed my first pair of glasses at the optician that was there at the corner, so it holds a special place in my heart. And my dad would get sick eating at the Jade Palace multiple times as a child. But no, I mean, I like this because one of the big things I want to push for is infill and reuse of existing buildings and properties. And, you know, starting this part of streetscaping and getting it there means that we'll have people wanting to come in and utilize existing space and not further develop areas that we should be just letting be for now. And I'm a big fan of this.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear there's interest in Jade Palace again.
Yeah.
Because that has a significant footprint in that corner,
Sure does.
so.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be that big domino that goes,
Yep.
like, once some developer wants to tackle that massive project and demolition and all that, it'll be interesting to see what it turns into, but it'll be good, like you said, John, it's that domino that keeps
Yep.
slow and steady.
Yeah, if that's it, Josh, you're all set, and we have nothing else on the workshop agenda, I believe.
All right, who brought snacks?
Good luck good
job.
luck to all with the application, fingers crossed. I feel
Yeah.
very optimistic. I would say we've had a lot of luck with these grant applications, but I don't think it's luck. It is hard work and preparation and attention to details, and those are the things that get grant applications awarded. So thank you, Maria, and thank you, Josh, and thank you, everybody who has had a hand in this and all of the other grant applications that have been awarded in the recent past.
Thank you. Very nicely said,
Well
Jeff.
said.
Thank you. All right, with that, I will close up the town board workshop for February 19th, and we